Why not grab some fresh alpine air and experience nature's spectacle in dramatic style in the alpine national parks and the lush valleys of the northeast? Saddle a horse in the footsteps of the man from Snowy River, or mountain bike the Dirty Dozen Trail. Alternatively, take a more leisurely approach and walk through stunning scenery and let the Victorian high country vistas invigorate your senses. Almost time for the Grand Prix Freestyle Dressage. Crowds coming into the indoor arena in preparation here for what is one of the best loved spectacles in equestrian sports. As the crowd settles, they're being entertained by Jose Mendez. Came to Australia early 1980s, graduate of the Spanish Riding School, has represented Australia in dressage, coach now living on the Southern Highlands of New South Wales. Came to Australia originally as a rider for the El Caballo Blanco, dancing Spanish horses in Sydney, unfortunately long defunct. Now, demonstrating here, Jose, the garrocha, the long pole, which they use the riders in Andalusia to control the bulls. But it's time for the dressage. Let's talk to one of the major competitors in this contest.
Mary, you're one of the most experienced campaigners in the equine industry. What does EQUITANA mean to you and the industry itself?
Well, EQUITANA, that we were introduced to it a few years back, and it's always a show that people love to go to as competitors and as spectators. It's a great show. It's a chance to showcase your horses and present to the public your sport, which is marvellous. And, you know, it's a great trade fair. In particular for us, the Grand Prix class is a qualifier for the World Cup final. And the World Cup final for the Pacific League is decided in December, so this is our last qualifier for it.
Righto, Mary, let's see what you've got. And she's got plenty. She's represented Australia for over 15 years at 3 Olympic Games. She's the Victorian State dressage coach. And riding here, Hamish, a very interesting horse that she's only recently purchased from the top American dressage rider, Stefan Peters.
Well, what we see here, Gary, is one of the superstars of Australian dressage, and one of the future stars of Australian dressage. This horse, by Sandro Hit, and that's a very well performed stallion, and really one of the most popular breeding stallions at the moment for the dressage.
Under the watchful eye here, a panel of 5 judges, including international experts, Dr. Wojtek Markowski from Poland and Dr. Uwe Spenlin from Germany, along with several of Australia's leading dressage judges. What are they looking for?
Well, they're looking for harmony between the horse and rider, obviously correctness, technical correctness of the movements, the ability of the horse to perform these things easily, obviously the performance of the rider, the correctness of their aids, and also in this being the Kerr or the freestyle as we call it, they're looking for artistic impression and how it's all put together with the music.
The majesty of the horse, the choreography and the music. Mentioned the purchase of this horse from Stefan Peters. He's here, by the way, at EQUITANA, and crowds are flocking to hear what he's got to say. And we will be seeing him in action a little later. He's not actually taking part in the contest, but we will see him later on this horse. He, of course, is a silver and bronze medal winner at Olympic Games for the United States.
Well, this horse has certainly had an excellent start to its dressage career under Stefan, and now we see it really being taken forward by Mary. It's a lovely moving horse and a really, really good acquisition for Australian dressage. And
the judges' score for Mary Hannah and Sanset, 66.10. Now, a visitor from New Zealand, Siobhan Green, riding the 16-year-old gelding Gosh. And Hamish, whilst we watch Siobhan perform here, maybe you could explain a little more to us just how the judges arrive at these percentage scores, like the 66.10 for Mary Hannah.
Well, Gary, every movement in the test is marked out of 10. So a score of 10 is excellent, a 9 is very good, and it cascades down to a 0 for a movement not performed.
And when you say test, it is a test. It's very regimented, what the horse and rider must perform.
It certainly is. Now, in the Grand Prix test, which precedes the freestyle, we have a strict test. It's outlined by the FEI. Now, in the freestyle test, as the name implies, you are allowed to create your own set of movements using the guidelines provided, and put it to the music that suits you and your horse.
Well, judges examined the performance of Siobhan Green and award 64.05. Now, moving on to Nadia Coghlan from New South Wales, riding Northern Campion. Each rider puts together their own music track for these performances, but it must take hours and hours of rehearsal.
Oh, you can be sure that a lot of work goes into this, Gary. First of all, you've got to come up with an idea, and then you've got to create a test, and then you've got to get someone that can put the music together, and a lot of riders these days are actually getting music composed for them and their horses.
17-year-old Northern Campion and Nadia Coghlan score 62.90. Now, this is Carolyn Wagner from Victoria and Nevada.
Well, this horse by the renowned warm blood stallion Dutchman. Carolyn, a show rider in a previous life, now performing very successfully in the dressage arena.
I mentioned the two international visiting judges. We've also got Helen Hughes-Keane from New Zealand, Susie Hubenars from Australia, and Maria Schwinnensen also from Australia. They're the ones adjudicating on these performances.
Well, they certainly are. Carolyn into the canter pirouette. Very difficult for a horse to perform this. A lot of collection required. A horse to sit on its hind end like that. Now we're into the flying changes. Every second stride.
4 down, 3 to go, and the leader at the moment, Mary Hannah, with Sunset on 66.10, ahead of Nevada and Carolyn Wagner, 64.15, the New Zealand visitor on 64.05, Northern Campion on 62.90. Let's have a change of pace.
If the car hadn't been invented yet, the Stig would be the star attraction in the sport of carriage driving. When negotiating the course in carriage driving, pretty much like when you're negotiating an obstacle course in a car, bigger doesn't necessarily always mean faster. Horses of all shapes and sizes compete against each other. And obviously the smaller horses have the advantage of agility, while the bigger horses have speed as their strong suit. Regardless of the size of the horse, however, there's not much margin for error, as the gates they need to whip through are just 30 centimetres wider than the actual carriage itself. And occasionally things get, well, they get just a little bit messy. The aim of the game is a pretty simple one. Navigate the cone's course and get through the obstacles in numerical order in the quickest possible time.
Next up, horse and cow go head-to-head in the cutting competition.